Sam, how are you, my friend?
I can't tell you how good I am.
It's awesome,
it's
right?
so crazy that this is real, from where this show and this brand came from, to the fact that, like, I mean, you made all this happen, dude. You made Live for 5 happen. You made Getting the Weekend happen. You made the cast of co-hosts that you have doing this show. Like, I mean, I don't know, because you work with them every day, but, like, I will, like, the fact that, like, it's Tommy, it's Mark, it's Bully, it's now Natalya, it's Thunder. Like, I have sat in this studio with you where I say something on the air, and, like, Bully Ray goes, I never thought of it, but that's a good point, Sam. And I'm sitting there in my head going, holy shit. Bully Ray just said I had a good point about wrestling. What world are we in?
Sam, and I'll remember this for the rest of my life. And you know where I'm going. Royal Rumble in Indy.
Dude.
Me and you, Bully Ray, Big Boss Man Eddie Brasilli sitting at dinner, hot dog.
Of course.
And we're sitting at dinner, and you booked the Rumble, and I just remember me and Bully looking at you like jaws drop, like, wow.
And dude, and I'm sitting there, and, like, of course it's fun talking wrestling with you.
Yeah.
But as I'm explaining my pitch, as it were, and Bully is, like, listening intently, I'm still sitting there going, oh my God, 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 because I'm back in 6th grade watching Barely Legal on pay-per-view. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I love that about you, that you take those moments and you take them in and you realize how big they are in the scope of things. And by the way, your predictions for the Rumble came true.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget Bully calling me before the Rumble saying, if what Sam said happens, we got to have him on the air. And then it happened and we had you on the air. But, it's the same with me. This past WrestleMania in Vegas, we did a show at Circa. It's me, Tommy, Bully, and Mark with Ric Flair. Right. And Ric Flair is my all-time favorite wrestler. And I'm doing a show with him in Vegas, 68 floors up from the Vegas Strip. Like, if you can't appreciate those moments, then you're not really a fan. And we're fans.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
And I would hope that that's part of the appeal of this channel, that you and I being these voices on it, that fans know. Whether they agree with us or not is beside the point. But the fact that there is this representation, that we don't carry ourselves as industry insiders or journalists or this or that. It's like, we are lifelong fans, and no dead spot lifelong fans, like legit lifelong fans who, I mean, I can't tell you the level of surrounding myself with pro wrestling that I've done since I was a child, and throughout. There has not been a period of time in my life where I haven't done everything that I can to surround myself with professional wrestling. And the fact that I get to do this for a living and now get to expand upon that because of what you've created is, it's unbelievable to me.
Sam, I always said, like, if you're not a fan, no explanation will do. But if you're a fan, no explanation is necessary. It's just something that's in your blood. And we're at a time where the latter is more true than the former. There are more wrestling fans now than ever before. It used to be a guilty pleasure. People, even when we started this show 16 years ago, that frowned upon it. That's not a real sport. Why is that part of this department? But now it's its own channel.
You know what's the best? It would be like, well, pro wrestling's not a real sport. Why is it on a sports channel? Well, good. We'll do our own channel.
Yeah, we'll do our own channel.
Well, good. How's your channel doing? Yeah, we'll do our own channel.
Hello. But and I appreciate what you've said and like what everybody said about the brand busted open and a creation that's now gone next level. You've created your own brand with Not Sam Wrestling. Now you're going to have Not Sam Wrestling Live. You've had the podcast, you've had the emergency podcast,
which all stay. They all will continue.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's such a big part. But now you have the opportunity to take that brand and have it part of this brand and be able to do it live, taking phone calls. I'm really excited about it because I've watched your brand grow.
Well, I really appreciate that. And I've told you in the past that, like, I love my brand. I love my kids. I love my brand. These are things I've created. You know what I mean? And there is something about, because, you know, it's not too dissimilar from your story, and I'm sure you can relate. Right around the time that you were starting Busted Open, I was working here at Sirius as a producer, but I was doing like weekend shifts trying to get my own thing going. And I pitched to them. I said, well, why don't you let me come in on a Sunday afternoon and do a wrestling show? And they said, I don't know if anybody wants to hear a whole show about wrestling. If you want to do a wrestling interview here, I don't know if anyone wants to. And that was when I said, okay, you know what? I got to just do a wrestling podcast. And there weren't that many. Colt Cabana was doing it. You know, there were a couple. It was Colt's thing. And I was like, well, I can do. There were a couple of fan podcasts, sure. But I was like, let me do a wrestling podcast. And that was over 10 years ago that I launched the podcast. And we've been on consistently every single week with at least one episode a week, if not now multiples, with the emergencies and the interviews and everything. But it really was just like, look, you know, I would like to do a show from my perspective. And I feel like my perspective is one where I think I complain less than most fans. And that's not to say that you shouldn't complain. That's just to say that's how I consume the product. But also, I really approach things analytically. I really like to just sit and almost unemotionally. And if I do have emotion, it's, oh my God, this is so cool. But it's just like taking down a segment, taking down the John Cena pipe bomb, taking like consuming that pipe bomb segment, and then going step by step to being like, why do we love this? Why does it feel so good? Why would this be happening? I mean, why is my favorite question. So, I mean, to have been able to create this and for it to be that, and for people to be as involved with it as they are, to the point that you and Sirius would come knocking and say, we'd like to bring that brand over here. And I think, Dave, you know that I'm not bluffing when I say that I wouldn't share this brand with anybody, and it has nothing to do with money. It has to do with the fact that it's mine.
Yeah, you've been very protective of your brand, which is smart.
Right, very protective of it, very prideful of it, and it is a thing where I've said no to other, offers and people that have come around, because it's like, no, this isn't right. This is mine, and primarily it's because I don't think that the people appreciate what the brand is. If you don't understand or appreciate what the brand is, that is not Sam Wrestling, that's totally fine. But we're not going to do business, because it's like you don't understand what it is.
Yeah.
When you guys came to me, it was a no-brainer. I mean, you've been appreciative, respectful, and a listener of the show that I've done, and come to me with like, hey, you were saying this on your show, and as you know, 2 years ago we were talking about this. It was a no-brainer from the beginning. And I mean, I remember having conversations with Eddie about it from the beginning. If there's ever an opportunity to put Busted Open and Not Sam Wrestling together in some way, shape, or form, it's an easy yes.
Yeah, and for me, Sam, I've been a big fan of yours and what you've been able to do with your brand. And, and now we'll be able to do it because we're a 24/7 channel. But you mentioned the Cena pipe bomb.
Right.
You had that emergency podcast, and I needed to hear another perspective of that, and I listened to your podcast, which was amazing. Your emergency podcasts always are.
Thanks.
And now you're going to be able to Monday to Thursday after a Raw, after an NXT, to pop on and talk with the nation about it.
And that's what I'm really, really excited about. I've been doing radio forever, and obviously I do the morning show on Faction Talk. But just the idea that, that I can do an emergency podcast immediately after something happens. But then I can sit with it. And then I can not just, read YouTube comments, but get on the air and say, hey, we dropped this emergency. Here's how I'm feeling about it now. And in real time, talk to everybody. Talk to the whole pro wrestling nation about what their take is. And maybe I missed something, and maybe it did suck, and here's why, and maybe I thought it sucked, but actually it didn't suck, and here's why. And have these conversations. I can't wait to turn the phones on and to be able to talk with this immediacy, and to be able, what I love about radio and about podcasts is the connections that it makes and the community that it builds, and the fact that like I can get on, and the fact that I'm on Monday through Thursday every day after Busted Open, and I can be there with people, and those people can be there with me. And we can know, like, we're going to have this conversation. If something happens on a Raw, you know, Tuesday, we're going to be there at that time that we meet to have this conversation about what happened on Raw.
Yeah, and I love what you said about community, because I've always talked about the nation, that we're a family. But I really feel more than anything else, even though at times it could be toxic, at times there could be a lot of infighting, but this really is a community.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the fans and the product itself. I've always had that fight with the people on the outside that didn't believe. And I think that's, and I know you can relate to that, that just makes you stronger. You know, I said when we broke the news on Busted Open that this channel was happening, Pro Wrestling Nation 24/7, I thank the people that supported, but I also thank the people that weren't supporting us and supporting the brand, the naysayers, because that really made me stronger and have something to prove to them that this could happen and that we're going to do it.
And that the next person that comes around and goes like, I don't think so. It's like, okay, wait, I mean, people have said that this whole time, and it keeps growing.
Yeah.
So what difference does it make if you, okay, you don't think so? That and $5 will get me a cup of coffee. You know what I mean?
It's
like,
true.
who cares? Who cares if you don't think so?
And it's
Luckily-
now $5. Like back when I first started the show, it was only a nickel. But yeah, like I just feel like people have felt that way about pro wrestling.
Right. But and this idea that I think too, and something that I really like, and I think it's happened with Not Sam Wrestling, the podcast, and I think it's got even more opportunity to do so on Sirius here on Pro Wrestling Nation, because people can stumble upon it. I think that shows like your show and shows like my show have the ability to take someone who's a fan into being a hardcore fan. It has the ability to go like, oh yeah, no, I like why I tune on Raw. Oh, what's it? There's a wrestling channel? Oh, there's a wrestling radio show? Oh, let me turn this on. And all of a sudden the passion that you have, the passion that I have, the passion that your co-hosts have, that becomes contagious, and people fall into it more deeply and more deeply. And I love watching that transition happen. And I love the fact that, to your point about new fans, I love hearing from people who listen to Not Sam Wrestling that have been like, I started watching 2 years ago. Because not that long ago, you didn't meet anybody that started watching 2 years ago. Either you've been a fan for the last 15 years or you're not watching wrestling.
Yeah, I think about like this Busted Open's been on the air for 16 years.
Right.
So to find out, I just started listening in 2023. I'm like, wait.
It's crazy.
Yeah,
you
it's
think
crazy.
everybody's got this foundation,
Yes.
and they don't. And that's part of the, and then you see new people that are like, I just heard you and Sam having that conversation. I had no idea it started as this. I had no idea it started as that. It's always been this thing. But yeah, I mean, that's the foundation of these shows that we do, of these brands that we build.